Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. This session is about the addition of quizzes or the creation of a quiz. Of course, as you already know, you need to turn editing on before you can add the quiz, and then you go to where you want to put the quiz. For example, here or anywhere, and then you click on add an activity or resource and you select quiz, and then you click on add. Once the quiz editor opens, you need to start by giving the quiz a name. Name, and then a description if you like, and if you want the description to be displayed on the course, then you click on this checkbox. Now, then you will have a number of settings. The first setting is timing, and it's important. If you would like to set a time for the opening of the quiz and a time for the closing of the quiz, you enable the open the quiz and then you set the time, and then you have to enable the close the quiz and set the time for closure. Now you need to do this if you want to have the quiz open and accessible for a certain period or duration of time. If you want it to be open all the time and accessible all the time, you do not enable an open and a close time. Also, you can set a time limit for the quiz. So if you want to set a time, for example, the quiz will continue, once you start, it will continue for half an hour. You enable and then you set the time there, 30 minutes, for example. Now, there is something called the expiration time. You want to set to specify a time for expiration. Now, expiration is different from time limit and different from opening and closing. Expiration means the students can attempt, and then the attempt itself expires, and then what happens? The time expires. You cannot do anything. But there are three possibilities. The first one, any open attempt will be submitted automatically, either when the student finishes and clicks on save and submit, or finish and submit, or the time expires, time limits, or the time for opening and closure expires. So it is going to be submitted automatically, and the student doesn't need to submit by themselves. There is a second option where the application will offer the student a grace period for the submission. So it's not related to the time limit, and it is not related to the opening and closure, although it is within that duration, but you can give a grace period when an open attempt can be submitted. But for that choice, the students can no longer answer more questions. They finish the attempt, but they will have the grace period to be able to submit, but they will not be able to answer more questions. Now, the last option is attempts must be submitted. So the students must submit before the time expires, or they are not counted as attempts. So these are the three options. You need to specify one. The default one is open attempts are submitted automatically. The students just work through the quiz, and once they finish, the attempt will be submitted automatically. Now, if you set a grace period, you need to specify the number of hours or days or weeks by enabling it there. But if you do not say there is a grace period there, then this will not be, this is now active because I chosen this grace period choice. But if the choice was attempts are submitted automatically. You cannot do this because there is no grace period. So this is the first important settings you need to deal with, the timing. Now the second important setting you need to deal with is the layout. So in the layout, the important one is the page. When will the student get a new page? So here the default choice is that the student will get a new page for every question. But you can specify a number of questions there, up to 50 questions per page, or they will never have a new page because all questions are on one page if you choose this. So this is very important. You need to set that, and people have different preferences. I myself prefer to give the students all the questions in one page, so I will have some sort of flexibility, but you resort to the other choices if you have a certain goal in mind. Now, the third setting option is the question behavior. Now, there are two important settings, and there is more. The two important ones is, will there be shuffling of options? The options within the questions, do you want them to be shuffled? Because if you do not want students to work together, you shuffle the question so that the question appearing to one student will have a certain sequence of options, for the other students will be a different sequence of options. So this one is yes by default. If you do not want shuffling, you just click and choose no. Now, how will the questions behave once you answer the questions? Now, here it is chosen by default that feedback will not be provided. It is deferred. It is delayed. It will be given later. Now, but you can choose. I want to draw your attention to only the option deferred and the option immediate. These are the two contrasting or contradicting choices. So you can either give immediate feedback or you can defer the feedback. And there are other options, but I think you need to know for now, do you want the feedback to be given or to be deferred? If you wanted immediate feedback, I think this is used for formative assessment, and you defer feedback if it's a summative assessment activity. So this is about question behavior, and it is important. Now, this is a minimum. You need to specify these three at least, and then I advise you to look through the other setting options. Now, at this junction, I need to remind you of this tiny question mark, which is the online help. So if you want to know a little bit about review options, you click on that, then you get the online help, and you read through it and know what it is about. So you click on the question mark against whatever item you would like some more information about, and you will get the on-screen help, or for example, these options control what information students can see when they review a quiz attempt or look at the quiz reports. Now, the options are the following. During the attempt, settings are only relevant for some behaviors like interactive with multiple tries, which may display feedback during the attempt. So immediately after the attempt, settings apply for the first 2 minutes after submit all and finish is clicked immediately after the attempt. Now later, while the quiz is still open, settings apply after this and before the quiz close date, or after the quiz is closed. So the feedback can be set to either of these four, and this relates to what is known as review options. And so, for example, appearance, if you click on appearance, you will have two options, and the question mark is on the inside. So you can click on the question mark and get on screen help if you like about that item. Once you are done, and just to remind you, you set a name, give a name to the quiz, and then you set the timing, and the timing are three options. The first is when will the quiz open and close, and the time limit, and when the time expires. So these three you need to set, and then for the layout you need to decide when will the students get a new page. And then regarding the question behavior, there are two issues: the shuffling within the question, and how the questions will behave. Are you going to will the question provide immediate feedback or deferred feedback? Then once you are done, you just save and return to the course. Now you have just created a new quiz, but there are no questions in that quiz. In our next video, we are going to discuss how you add questions to your